This is part 26 of Angular CLI tutorial. In this video, we'll discuss deploying our Angular application to IIS server. Let's look at the steps required for this. Naturally, the first step is to build our Angular application. We can either deploy a development build or a production build. In our case, let's deploy a production build. So the first step is to do a production build. So to do a production build, we use this command ng-build along with -- prod option. Notice we are also using the base href option here. So what is this option going to do? This is going to set the base href element in our index.html to /eportal/. By default, the base href element value in index.html is a single /. Now the important point to keep in mind is whatever value we specify for the base href element, we have to create an application with that name in our IIS. So the base href element value and the IIS application name should match. In just a bit, we'll create an application with this name in IIS. But before that, let's do a production build. I have this command already typed within the command prompt window. Before we execute this, let's fix an error that we have within our home component. In our home component class, we have a function called getText, and if you look at that function here, we are missing that letter T. So let's fix this error, save the changes, and then do a production build. There we go. Our production build is complete. Now if we take a look at the dist folder that is generated, within that we have our index.html. Let's open this with Notepad and look at the base href element value. Notice the base href element value right here. It is set to /eportal/ as expected. The next step is to create a folder on the server where you have IIS installed and copy all the contents of the dist folder into that folder. In my case, I'm going to deploy the application on my local machine itself. So I have already created a folder within my C drive and I named this production build. So into this production build folder, I'm going to copy all the contents of the dist folder. Remember, this dist folder contains our production build. So I'm going to copy all these files into our production build folder in our C drive. The next step is to create an application in IIS and point that application to the folder that contains the build files. In our case, we have to point the application within IIS to this folder, /production build. And notice here we named our application within IIS ePortal. Remember, this has to match the value that we have specified for the base href element. So let's do this now. To open IIS, the easiest way is to launch the run window and then type this command inet mgr and then click OK. So this is going to launch IIS. So within IIS, expand the root node and then expand the sites folder, right click on default website and then select this option add application from the context menu, and the application name is ePortal. And we want to point this application to this physical folder, /production build, and then click OK. There we go. Our IIS application with name ePortal is successfully created. Now let's launch our application within the browser. To do that, right click on the ePortal application, point on manage application and then select browse. This is going to launch your default browser. In my case, the default browser is Google Chrome, and look at the URL right here. Localhost ePortal is the name of our application within IIS, and we have the home route. So we see the message home works. When I click on employees, we see employees works. It appears as if everything is working fine, but we actually have a problem. Now when I click on this reload this page button, look at what happens. We get 404. To fix this error, we have to include a URL rewrite rule in web.config file. As you can see, this rule rewrites all requests to this URL /eportal, of course with a few exceptions. At the moment, within our production build folder, we don't have a web.config file. So let's add a new text document and then change the name of that to web.config. And within this web.config, let's include the URL rewrite rule that we have seen on the slide. So let's open this with a notepad and then paste that same rule. Save the changes and close the file. Now let's go back to our web page, and when we reload this by clicking the button, notice it now works as expected. Now if you're wondering why did we have to create this separate folder, production build, and then make our IIS application point to this folder, why can't we point our IIS application directly to the dist folder within our routing demo project folder? This dist folder contains all the required build files. So why can't we make our IIS application point directly to this dist folder? Well, there's nothing stopping us from doing that. The only downside is if we have our web.config file within the dist folder, every time we do a new build, we know this dist folder will be deleted and recreated. That means we will lose the web.config file. So every time we do a new build, we'll have to copy the web.config file with the URL rewrite rule into the dist folder. So if you don't want to lose your web.config file, then choose a folder other than the dist folder, maybe something like this, production build folder. If you're okay with copying the web.config file every time you do a new build, then probably you can make your IIS application point directly to the dist folder. Which approach you choose depends purely on your personal preference. Thank you for listening and have a great day.